Today, we're going to be going over my 5 best tips for maintaining your top speed for sprinters. We want to go in depth into some of the things you want to avoid, as well as what you want to be doing while sprinting to make sure you're able to maintain your top speed. We'll go ahead and hop right into it. We're looking here at Noah Lyles and the 100-meter recently from the Olympic trials, and we're going to compare it to Christian Coleman here at the top. We also have Sydney McLaughlin. We're going to be looking at her as well. She does the 400-meter hurdles. 2 very different races, but some of the things that we're seeing from both of them, I think, really applies. Tip number 1 that we want to be doing when you are sprinting and getting into your top speed is we want to be really pushing the hips forward. Once you get into your top speed, I think it's important to understand where your hips are in comparison to your shoulders or in comparison to your head. And what we typically see is once you start to lose your top speed, what we'll see is people end up starting to lose the positioning within their hips. So they're going to start landing with their foot a little bit more out in front of their hips, as opposed to really landing with your foot underneath your hips. We could see with both Noah Lyles as well as Sydney McLaughlin here how they're doing a great job of landing with their foot underneath the hip. And that's really an important part of being able to maintain your top speed. And even if you're almost consciously pushing your hips forward, that's going to help you in making it so you have more of your momentum going forward as you are in your top speed, or if you get to the end of like a 400-meter race here, to make it so you can continue to have your momentum coming forward. Again, those longer sprints, what we'll see is people's hips will start to fall back, and that'll make it so then they land with their foot out in front of them or go into like overreaching, and then that makes it so you have longer foot contact time. It's more of an inefficient movement and really has a negative impact on your running. Another important part of this is going to be the positions that we're getting within your hands, within your elbows. So as you're getting going, I think it's important to be able to maintain your elbow coming all the way forward or your hand coming all the way forward, and using that as a ability to kind of reach out in front. Another common mistake that we'll see is people will get stuck with their elbows pretty tight to their body as they're running, and this will again kind of impact your ability to really get good quality reach. Christian Coleman doesn't do a bad job with this, but we could see like here, his elbow's kind of tight, and then he doesn't get very much range going back behind him as well, especially on that left side. Right side, he's pretty good, but left side, he's definitely tight within the arm. And I think it's important to maintain a good reach as you're sprinting to make it so then you can maintain a top speed or really avoid slowing down too quickly. The third thing that you really want to be aware of here is just going to be landing on the front part of the foot. So when you get into the top speed, so you're going through your acceleration into your transition to top speed, then, or your acceleration kind of drive phase into your top speed, what we'll commonly see, and it's actually a good thing, is you start to get some of your weight to come back as you get into that top speed position. The issue is when you do that, you don't want to end up coming so far back with your weight that now you start landing more in like the middle part of your foot. You want to be able to continue to land on the front part of the foot throughout the run, especially further into the race you go, like maybe the last 100 of a 400-meter run or the last 20 of a 100-meter. Now we'll see a lot of people that will end up having a position where they're landing in a very good position within their foot. Now all of a sudden start to land a little bit more towards the heel. So with Christian Coleman at the beginning, he was doing a really good job of landing more on the forefront of his foot or the front part of his foot. And then as he gets to the end of the race, we see he's starting to land more towards the heel or the back part of the foot. So he's losing control of his body position, which again makes it so you're not going to be able to finish very well. So far, 3 main things just to kind of review, because I think these 3 are really important. 1, continue to push your hips forward or maintain your hips forward in front of the shoulders or even with the shoulders, however that relates to you the best. Number 2, really get your hands and elbows forward. The better we could do of getting our arms through, elbows through, the better we're going to be able to maintain a good forward position. And the fastest people in the world have just more time with their foot spent out in front of their hips as opposed to behind their hips. And then the next part is just landing and maintaining landing on the front part of the foot. And when you start to push those hips forward a little bit, sometimes we'll see people start to land further back within the foot. So you want to be pushing your hips through and also landing on the front part of the foot. The next one is just going to be maintaining a consistent head placement. These are amongst the best in the world, so these guys are really good, and they don't have a bad bad head position or aren't doing too much stuff with their head that's negatively impacting them. But I'm sure we've seen people that when they get to the end of the race, they start to go all over the place with their head, start moving their chin all over, up and down, side to side. The more you can maintain a very neutral head position, then the less amount of extra action or extra motion that you're going to be using when you're running. It's normal to have some side to side movement or even some forward and back movement. We see with Noah Lyles, he usually has a little bit more of like a bit of a forward and back movement when he gets into his top speed. And everybody has usually a bit of a side to side motion, but notice that there's not like a whole bunch of extra chin movement. Keep your head consistent. And then the last one is going to be maintaining a push forward. So a common thing that we see with all these elite athletes is, and this is another one that we see within all the elite people here. These are all the fastest people in the world. So this is an issue that we're going to see a lot of here, but we do see this, or I do see this with athletes that I'm training, is that we don't always do a great job of getting a good position within the foot or maintaining a good push off. But notice how all these athletes do a really good job of getting that toe to be facing back as they're going through their extension. And so another important tip when it comes to maintaining your top speed is continuing a forward push. And I say that because what we'll see is people will start to try to lift up more within the foot, okay, or even will put too much emphasis on lifting up in the knee. And notice that with Sydney McLaughlin, she's at the back part of the 100. This is the fastest 400-meter hurdler in the world. And we could see her knees not really getting up to her hip, right? She's not getting a ton of height here. She's getting great push off though, okay? And so we want to be able to maintain in the 100, we're going to get probably a little bit more knee height there, which is good. But again, we want to maintain a great push off, okay? And just understanding the timing of pushing ourselves forward so we're covering more distance. The idea is if we're going to be running a 100, 200, 400, we want to be able to cover that distance in the most efficient way possible, which means that we're not taking extra steps as we are going through whatever the particular race is. So in order to do that, you have to be maintaining pushing yourself forward. What we'll see is people will not be getting this range within their foot and will really emphasize lifting up their knee. And one, that's inefficient in terms of just your energy. That's going to burn way more energy when you're running. And it's going to make it so you don't cover as much distance per step. So if you're supposed to run the 100 in, let's say, 44 steps, that's probably about what Noah Lyles did here, then maybe they would run it in like 47 steps or 48 steps. So the more steps that you take, right? If Noah Lyles is 5'10", he's running in about 44, maybe 45 steps, and you're the same height or maybe even taller, and you're saying you 48 steps, the likelihood of him winning is significantly more because he's taking less steps. And that's really the key of what these guys are able to do at such a high level that compete at the highest level, is they're able to cover a tremendous amount of distance in a very limited amount of steps because of the amount of force that they're generating into the ground. And so really understanding that critical concept is important to make it so you're able to have a great ability to maintain top speed and be able to run fast. Those are my main tips when it comes to maintaining your top speed, when it comes to running faster. I hope that information is helpful for you. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and leave those down below. We're going to have some links to some additional videos if you want to learn a little bit more about sprinting or some of the things that we do. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. We'll talk to you soon.